Hi, I'm Nimit Brahmbhatt and you are listening to my not so profound thoughts. So today I'm going to talk about two topics, that is the war between the face off between India and China that is taking place, and the second is that war is good for business. Yes, you heard that right. Uh, Generally countries do wars or have wars on other countries because it is good for the economy that is taking place. So I'll be talking about these two things. So the first thing that there is a situation going on, war type situation going on between India and China, and I would like to give my views on it. That first of all, that if we look down at the point of the view of China, that China is surrounded by 14 countries or is sharing borders with 14 countries, but is claiming the territory over 18 countries. Recently, it claimed territory over Russia as well as Bhutan, and it has been claiming the territory over India since long time. So right now the situation in the what happened in Galvan Valley and the situation at LAC uh, that is taking place, that strategically if we see that India is at a better position right now, not in just terms of weapons and all, but we have a advantage of height or the altitude. While I was in NCC Gujarat 3rd Battalion, so they gave us the training that for people who are on height has more advantage to people who are at a lower side of the valley or at a lower altitude, because you can target your enemies more easily than on a flat ground or from a lower ground to upper ground, because so that is the way, that is the one strategic point. The second is the coronavirus is currently going on right now and it has not stopped as of yet, and made most of the countries of the world angry towards China. So suppose if war starts, then it won't be just with India, but there are chances that this 18 countries, out of 18, even if 4 to 5 countries start war with China, excluding India, so it makes a total of 6 to 7 countries. Where if they start a war with China, then definitely China will lose, because the strategic alliances which India has with US, with Japan, with South Korea, with Russia, and Hong Kong is internally fighting with China. Tibet is also there fighting with China, but can't do anything. Right now, Bhutan is has also started fighting with China. So if we see that if it starts war with China, India, then South Korea, Japan, US, Russia may start war with China to help India, and no country can fight wars with 3 to 4 countries simultaneously and win all of them. So definitely China is going to lose no matter what. The only option for them is to move back and not have a war at this time, and not have a war at any point of time from now on onwards, because of the pandemic situation which created which made all the rest of the countries against China. And the second topic which I am going to, before I start with the second topic, let me just add one thing. Let us peep into a history that during the 1941 war, that was World War II, and Germany was trying to prove its superiority in the Europe, trying to beat the Great Britain at that time, and was fighting with France as well as Britain as well as USSR. So at that point of time, it was point of time that Germany had an intel that while fighting USSR, the area was almost of ice, and there won't be that many USSR troops for the fight. So they what they did was they the whole battalion was divided into three troops and was sent that way in different areas, and all those three troops lost because the army was not concentrated at a point of time. If they had captured the highway or the bridge where the oil reserves were there for USSR, then USSR would have to have surrendered at that moment, but it didn't happen. And as it was fighting simultaneous wars with two to three countries, as well as US, which was bombing and was having an alliance with USSR at that point of time, and fighting Germany, where at a point of time it came that it is not possible, it was not possible for Germany to win at any war, and it lost everything. The similar situation right now is faced by China. If it starts a war, it is going to lose almost everything. So now we move on to the next segment, which I call that the war is good for business. Well, technically, uh, looking at an economic point of view, that if war starts and what happens after war. So I'm going to explain this two situation. So if war starts, so the army, air force, and the navy will be requiring uh, two major things. I would say three major things. The first is the bullets and arms and ammunition, which would lead to increase in demand of steel and other products. The second would be automobiles. They would be requiring transportation services, which would definitely increase demand in the automobile sector as well as in the fuel and petroleum industry, while there would be storage as well as in FMCG industry because the storage would have to be made. The third is medical supplies. So if we look at overall situation, so the currently demand is increasing during the war in FMCG as the food has to be stored, the medical supplies, as also the textile because the uniforms would have to be made again and again, the shoes, the rubber production that would increase or might increase, the whole automobile industry, including the ancillary services such as batteries, steel, and tires and whatnot, as well as the medical supplies such as cotton and sanitizers and different products that are used for medical equipments, for surgeries, also the for the for all those army personnel or air force personnel who were injured while fighting for the territory that is at a dispute right now. And we talked about during this happened during the war. So let us assume that there is an increase in demand in five different industries during the war, which would mean that certain increase in demand would give more income to certain people or sectors which they are working for. So this is what I am talking about direct demand. There would be a ripple effect of indirect demand where the services towards all these things would be provided, such as communication and servicing industry and the whole industry is connected with automobile, medical, and the transportation, logistics sector, and FMCG sector. So, other than direct as well as indirect, I would estimate that there would be a growth of almost 6 to 7% in increase in demand than regular demand. If there is a war type situation, because the whole country, it is not just the area that would be the disputed area that would be at war, but the whole country will be at war. So, if suppose if we go back again to history, there were times when during a war situation, people used to be in the quarantine situation for 4 months, 6 months, even a year. For some, it has happened in some countries that they were in quarantine situation for an year. So what happens if we face a such situation like that? We have to go for a quarantine in 1 month, for 2 months or 3 months, for some areas for 4 to 6 months. So what happens that? Let me tell you that in war situation, the shops won't be open like they used to be in lockdown situation during the pandemic. But people will have to store the food grains, the essential items that are all required for survival. So if there is an emergency and one has to stay at home for 6 months, then one will have to have the food supplies of 6 months to eat regularly, at least dal chawal or rice, at least some staple food that he can survive for 6 months, and that food storage would be there. So a sudden increase in FMCG products such as oil, food grains, and other stuff which would be required during a war situation. Now let's take a look at the aftermath that takes place the after the war. So there would be destruction in the country, and it would lead to increase in demand in the infrastructure as well as real estate. It might be affordable, it might be luxury, it might be anything else, but there would be increase in demand for the real estate because some houses might be damaged. Most of the roads would have been damaged because the war is going on. Not in most of the parts of the country, but many parts of the countries where the border has been shared with the enemy country. So this is how the whole thing would work, that there would be direct demand, there would be indirect demand, and the ripple effect would definitely cause a growth in economy after the war. So what happens mostly in some developed countries is the people who are manufacturing arms and ammunition wage war with other countries by lobbying them, by lobbying the money, by money laundering and other ways, and they make the government believe that this are harmful towards our nation and wage war on them, which would lead to all these things which I explained and ultimately increase in the economy. So that's all for today. If you have any questions or any other thing, you can tweet me or write me on Instagram or leave a review if you are using Apple Podcast. And that's all for today. Thank you.